stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember right. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the group. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild remember ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the Untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, monsters, and welcome to Monsters on the Edge. I am your host, Barnaby Jones, here on the Untold Radio Network. Today's show is pre-recorded. We are not live in studio today, so if you have any questions or comments and you're throwing them in the comments section and we're ignoring them, we're just not in the studio. So keep that in mind as we go forward with today's show. All right, guys, I hope everyone had a happy and fun Halloween and got out to do all kinds of cool stuff. We are back here in studio, and we got some cool events coming up here. We are going to be at CryptidCon coming up at the end of this month. It is going to be November 23rd and 24th in Lexington, Kentucky. So if you guys are down there, come out and meet the Caps team. We are going to be there. And then we head back to Wisconsin for the Soul and Synergy Expo, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, November 30th. Brought to you by Metapara Promotions at the Radisson Hotel and Conference Center in Fond du Lac. You can get all these events and more at wisconsincaps.com. And then, guys, next year, we are super excited. We have the Wisconsin Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention coming to you May 9th through the 11th in Appleton, Wisconsin at the Hilton Doubletree Hotel. We are going to have Angela Zabel's going to be doing a psychic gallery reading that evening, and as well as some other great speakers throughout the day on Saturday. We are doing a Bigfoot hike on Friday night, and some paranormal investigations on Saturday. So I hope Sunday. So hopefully everyone can come out and check that out as well. If you guys want to show your support for all things here on the Untold Radio Network, here's how.
Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our show's knowledgeable hosts and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
All right, guys, keep in mind today's episode is pre-recorded. So again, if you're watching and have any questions or comments, we are not in the studio today. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. My guest today, rejoining the show for the second time, he hails from the swamps of North Florida. He is a filmmaker and skunk ape researcher. He is Stacy Brown Jr. It is awesome to have him back with us today. Please welcome to the show, Stacy Brown Jr. Welcome back.
What's up, bud?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man.
Awesome. Well, you are awesome. You're all over the place. I gotta say, like, there's so much cool stuff to go with you. Today, we're going to be talking about your newest project. So you have a new documentary out here, Bigfoot: The Journey to Belief.
Yep.
So I guess we have the trailer. Do you want to tell a little bit about it? Do you want to watch the trailer first? What do you think we're gonna do here?
Let me walk it in. So, okay. I was doing this Outcast paranormal thing. I think I was talking about it last time I was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And my cameraman, me and him became real good friends. And he said to me one day, now you got to figure, I done drug this dude all around the country doing this Outcast stuff. We done been to Indian Reservation up in Nebraska. We've been to the Conjuring House, been all kinds of places. And he said to me one day, he goes, dude, I know you fully believe in Bigfoot. He goes, I don't think you're lying when you talk about the stuff, but I do not believe in Bigfoot at all. And now this is a man who was standing in a Bigfoot track in Nebraska, but we'll forget that happened. Yeah. He's like, why don't you prove to me Bigfoot exists? And it threw a light on for me. So, because what you see when you watch a lot of the Bigfoot documentaries, it's the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean? We're going to do some interviews. We're going to go in the woods. But the premise is the same, right? It's coming from a Bigfoot believer. He's just trying to find evidence. They're good, but it's like the Survivor Man Bigfoot route, And I was like, wow, this will actually give me a different angle, to make a Bigfoot documentary. I've been working with my friend, and I can prove to him, Bigfoot exists. And, not only from the filmmaking standpoint, what you have in the Bigfoot community is almost like a confirmation bias, right? So you're making stuff for people that already believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to help us get any closer to proving it, right? So I thought, what better way? Because Joey's a Reddit troll, right? Like a literal Reddit troll. And I thought, if I can prove to him, here it is, put up or shut up. You know what I mean? Prove to me Bigfoot is real. And if I can convince Joey that Bigfoot's real, the rest of the world won't be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So we go through this whole thing of what does he need, for proof. And then what I wanted to present to him. So we go on this road trip, this journey. We interview. I put him in front of 15 people to interview. 15 people I thought were credible or a bigger name, had some kind of story, Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to go on a document dive in the state of Florida's archives to see if we could prove the existence of the Ocheesee wild man. This is a story I believed happened. And I thought, what better, way to prove that than to go through all of the governor's documents. Because the story is there was a Bigfoot caught. They took it to the governor. The governor sent out a bunch of messages, and they put it in a mental institution where it died. But surely if that actually happened, you know, there would be documents there. And, you know, as this is going on, as we're interviewing these people, there's some of the same little flags raising up. I mean, like, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. And a lot of it was police involvement. These people actually reported a lot of these sightings, you know, and during the filming, he goes and files a public records request without me knowing about it, asking about all these things, you know. And so we had all that stuff. And then at the end, I took him to a place where there's actually, I believe there was actually Bigfoot activity. You know what I mean? So he could get his eyes on some of this stuff and experience it, you know. And that's it. It was a blast to make, you know. And I just that walking in, that'll give you a good feel for what happens when you watch a trailer. So
awesome. Well, let's take a look.
If you look at the body of evidence, I understand why you don't believe. I'm telling you, there is an 8-foot tall, hairy creature in the woods. It sounds insane. So I could take you to a place right now where we'll get knocks. Maybe we'll find some tracks. And if we find those tracks, it's no more proof to you than anything else. And that's why I just want to know, like, what constitutes as proof to a skeptic?
And we started hearing creaking up the footsteps. Everybody started panicking and freaking out. The news is like, this ain't happening, this ain't happening, this ain't happening. And I'm like, dude, this shit is happening.
I looked at it, but I didn't want it to look me in the eyes. I was so scared. I've never been so scared in my life. I grabbed everything I had and I turned and ran.
Where the light starts to fade to the side of the beam, that's where I saw it.
Where did it come from? And somebody said, hey, maybe we should go get a grown-up.
I was coming on the interstate, and across the hood of my car came this creature.
But I could see that it was breathing hard, like its shoulders were going up and down.
And seeing a bipedal figure that was literally going left to right, back and forth.
Remember how everybody talked about some way, somehow, there was some sort of FWC involvement. So I thought, why not do a public records request?
It's right there in the hunting regulations. You're taking a skunk ape is strictly prohibited.
There were 73,000 emails, but this is where it gets crazy. All communication stops.
At the end of the day, from here on out, this is about protection for threatened species.
That's cool. Yeah. So when I heard about this, I'm thinking, you know, a lot of the people that come on there, you know, that have had experiences, that do the research and everything, they always say the same thing. I'm not out to prove this to anybody. I know it's real. I know what I saw, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. And here you have taken the complete opposite in making this documentary of saying, how do you prove to a skeptic? How do you prove to someone, and what would it take? And that is a fascinating turn of the coin there to see what it would take and stuff. So looking at this, like, what were some of his biggest issues with the body of evidence? What was it going to take to convince him?
Well, okay. So when people say I'm not out to prove this to anyone, that's a cop out, right? Like, what are you doing it for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you doing it just to enjoy being around these things? And if that's the case, why are you on here talking to all of us about it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean no disrespect to anybody that thinks that way. That's fine. But you know what? You can't be upset when people call you a liar. You can't be upset when people call you crazy. Mm-hmm. We want to prove these things. And, you know, when a skeptic looks at it, it's not things the Bigfoot community wants to hear. You know what I'm saying? Because all the evidence is garbage. I mean, what is there? Like, let's go through it. What is it? There's Patty. I don't even believe Patty's real. So, okay, hearing it from him wasn't nothing to me. There's too many red flags with Roger for me to actually 100% sell on that. I would love for it to be real, but I don't believe it is. And I think with the Bigfoot community, you have a lot of people who don't want to hear the bad shit. You know, when I go to bed at night, I know that Bigfoot is real. No matter what nobody says, no matter whether that video's hoaxed, you know, or this is, you know, whatever. The guy was drunk that's telling the story, you know, none of that matters. So how do I, because I'm not a liar. I don't like people thinking that I am. I don't like people thinking that I'm, you know, just trying to get a con over on somebody. It's not that at all. I do want to prove it. And there's reasons I want to prove it. I think there's more to them than what most people give them credit for, you know. But when you asked Joey what he thought about Bigfoot and what the pieces of evidence I was giving him, the videos are not going to do it. Your Bigfoot videos are not even going to touch it. The audio, Ron Moorhead's audio, which we didn't even bring that up on camera. He's like, dude, I bet you the guy from Police Academy can make those same exact noises and hit the same exact frequencies. So we're going to see. We're going to contact him and we're going to see. You know what I mean? And I mean, hell, I don't know that they're real. I don't know that any of this stuff that I'm presenting to him is real. So outside of a body or seeing one, you know, not a body, but he could see a body.
Yep.
The only thing would be documentation. You know what I mean? It's not that he thinks everyone is a liar. He thinks most people are misidentifying what they're seeing, you know, and then we have a lot of schizophrenic people in the world. Like, let's not forget that. Let's just be real about all that. They may actually be seeing it. That don't mean it's there. You know, so with his belief, he wanted some type of documentation. We were able to provide that through some of the interviews. I had already known when we interviewed Joey Bruce. I had already known about the hunting regulations pamphlet. There's one in the lower Swanee River management area here, about 2 hours from our house. And in that, it says they're under the hog hunting regulations. It says there's no harvesting of skunk apes or swamp apes. Well, Joey Bruce, he lives across the street from that place. Like, his area is right across the street from there, and they have stuff going all the time. So that's why we interviewed him, and I had him bring that up to Joey Badia, you know, the cameraman. And that was odd. You know, Joey's like, I don't understand why they would have that in, because somebody's supposed to be the adults in the room, right? Stacy Brown ain't out there making these pamphlets, pranking a bunch of people or, you know, cutting up and just having a joke in there about skunk apes or swamp apes. Like, this is an official document. Why is that in there?
Did you get a chance to talk to anyone that actually wrote the pamphlets to see why it's in there?
No, we saved a good bit of stuff for season 2.
Nice.
Because there's a lot of stuff that came up. You know, and that was the thing that really kind of first kicked the light on for him. The public records request was the other thing that really did it for him, you know, and I think the folly of the Bigfoot world is that we're out trying to record stuff, film stuff, when it's not gonna matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, brother, we have, and I'm not bragging. Hold on one second. My daughter texted me. All right. Sorry. Anyways, I'm a father of 3 kids, by the way. So
3.
Yeah. But they, what was I talking about?
The records.
The records request. So yeah, the public records request. He sent that in and oh, that's what I was saying. The Bigfoot community, we're trying to catch evidence when it's not going to matter. Me and my dad arguably have some of the best footage since the Patterson-Gimlin film. I'm not bragging, but it's up there. I'm sure everybody would agree to that. And it's nothing. Like the more important part of that footage is the report that Clip Rackman did on it. Barrickman or however say his name. I mispronounce it every time. I know the guy. I just keep thinking like Baraka off of Mortal Kombat 2. You know, with them blades. But yeah, so I have this footage and it's not good. It's great with the report, and I have a problem with that because like science says we need proof, something we can test. You can test all this. Like we have how far it was away. We have exactly how far it crossed of the gap. We have how big the tree was. We have all the math. You can retest the math. Like I don't understand. Like, can I publish a paper on that? Because you could. Unfortunately, Hurricane Michael tore that area down, but all the stuff was done before this. You could recreate this in a lab. Like you could set up, okay, he's at this pitch, you know, he's at this distance. It's the tree's that wide and it's got to cross it. How can we fake that? You know what I'm saying? Like it can be tested, but I don't. Anyways, I digress. It's really the Bigfoot community tries to go out and prove to these people through means of stuff that's not going to matter. So like, why not? Because at the end of the day, brother, I know Bigfoot's real. Everybody else has actually saw one. They know it's real. Ain't no piece of footage gonna change that. They know it's real. And if Stacy Brown knows, like y'all think about that. If Stacy Brown knows Bigfoot is real, you think the federal government don't know? Because Stacy Brown ain't nothing special, brother. Ain't done nothing out of the ordinary. And I know. So me and the other thousands of people in this country that know, y'all have to think about that. Like, yo, we ain't none of us nothing, you know, like the government's got to know. And if they got to know, then they got documentation. And so I think that is where we can hit them from. You talk about the UFO disclosure. That's really big right now. But, you know, what about them Bigfoot documents? I think the people that care about Bigfoot are too busy fighting about whether it's an ape or whether it's something else. And they're not getting nowhere, dude. This community's spinning its wheels. Bigfoot's not going to be proven at this rate in my lifetime. Tell me the people that are doing it for real. I'll wait. You know what I mean? Like, you got the Wood Ape Conservancy, the Olympic Project, and I don't even know how active that is anymore. Outside of that, I don't know nothing. You got a bunch of people out there weekend warrioring it because we all have jobs and stuff. There's not no real money thrown into Bigfoot. So it's not like, because there should be 20 to 30 of these groups around the country that are actually like doing research every single day, documenting it and doing all that, but it's just not there. And so if we cannot get out to the woods, which it seems that we can't, let's get into the offices. Let's make phone calls. Let's do the damn things that we can do. Let's get the government to come off of their stuff. And so when Joey, and I won't spoil the film, but I do want to talk about this. When Joey did the public records request, he asked if they had any reports or emails containing the words skunk ape, swamp ape, Sasquatch, and Bigfoot. Now, just off the top of your head, how many reports do you think they would have? Just take a guess. I knew personally of 3. I have the case numbers. I have the dates, the county, the guys that came on scene. I have all of it. 3 of them. Okay. But how many other ones do you think there would be?
Just in general, maybe a couple hundred.
Couple hundred, right? That seems about fair. Okay. How many emails do you think there would be?
Probably less than that.
Probably
Well,
less
I'm
than
thinking
that.
there's a lot of like police reports. People call in. You know, as you said in the beginning, a lot of people claim to see these things. You know, you got to
Well, so
account for all that.
this would be just the Fish and Wildlife. Okay, that's who he sent the thing to. So, but there were probably around the same number. Okay, these are interdepartment emails as well. So they came back with 0 reports. We've never been on scene. We've never taken a skunk ape report. And they told us they had 73,313 emails pertaining to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, skunk ape, or swamp ape. And they want $12,000 for those emails. Okay. So when Joey told me this, I'm like, bro, here's 3 reports. Ask him about those. And he does. He's like, what about this report here on this date with Ken White in Walton County? They just stopped talking to us. They closed our file and stopped talking to us, okay? A few months before the film came out, there was an Orlando Sentinel article about the skunk ape, and it had Dave Shealy in there. In this article, they interview a FWC officer, and the FWC officer says, hey, we take reports all the time, and then he names off 6 of them. So what we've done is we've got a lawyer who will take the case. We found a lawyer. Okay. We had to pay his retainer fee of $3,200. And so we have a GoFundMe on the website. The GoFundMe set for like $15,000. That's enough to cover the emails and the retaining of the lawyer. Once the lawyer is retained, he will send another request, just so they lie to him as well. And then once they do that, we then drop a suit. We file a lawsuit on the state of Florida and make them give us the reports because they have them. I promise you they have them. If you don't have them, that's dereliction of duty, brother. What are y'all doing? Like, what are you doing? And they're not going to be able to get away from this. As soon as we can raise the money, it's happening. Once that suit drops, we've already planning a Bigfoot protest at the state capitol for the reports. And we're going to have a bunch of people picketing in Bigfoot costumes and stuff once the weather kind of cools down here a little bit. So it's coming in season 2. That's all I can say. But that once all that happened, Joey was like, listen, this is how you make it look like a cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to cover it up, this is what you're going to do. And that, like, because, hey, if I didn't make him believe after season 1, after all this stuff, there probably wasn't going to be a film come out. You know what I'm saying? What's the point? But spoiler alert, he feels that the investigation needs to continue because now I have the Reddit troll. I got him, bro. I got that hook in him now, dog. I'm going to turn this man into a believer of Bigfoot. And then I'm hoping the viewers, because this film is not made for the Bigfoot community at all. I don't care if anybody in the Bigfoot community watches it. It's not for you. You will enjoy it because this is the kind of content you consume. But this is for the guy who's like may think Bigfoot's cool, but doesn't really believe in it, right? Because everybody knows what Sasquatch Bigfoot is now. You can't find a person who doesn't. More young people today know about Bigfoot than they do JFK, right? And that's the thing. Okay, this generation, this 40s to beyond generation, they're cooked. They're set in their ways. If we're going to get anything done, we're going to have to get these kids who are going to grow up with a possibility of a belief in Bigfoot, at least not a ridicule of Bigfoot, right? So the younger ones, the 30 and down, right? These are going to become your politicians here before too long. and they've got more of an open mind than the generations prior to them. So it's kind of like how they said they were going to invade America with communism, right? They were going to do it by attracting the youth. And if we want to open up more, you know what I mean, more avenues to getting this thing proved, we need to make the kids the ones who don't have this suppression of their mind. Because when I was growing up, and I'm sure you're in the same boat, you're a weirdo if you believed in Bigfoot. Nobody wanted to be, nobody wants to be labeled that. But those people's going to die off, brother. We all going to die. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that we can, you know, at least get to sit in the shade of this tree. Right? I hope I ain't dead before all of it happens, because one day you're going to have some kid who's probably 15 right now, 20, maybe 30 years. He's now a senator, and he hears something, and he'll bring something forward because he doesn't have that belief that, oh, Bigfoot's hogwash. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense in my rambling.
No, I completely agree. It's interesting, you know, because as you talked earlier too about the whole thing with disclosure and the stuff going on in the Senate and all the House hearings and all that, it's just a matter of time before somebody like yourself now steps up and says, okay, well, if you're talking about, you know, the UFOs and UAPs and all this seriously, when are we going to talk about Bigfoot? And all these documents, all the stuff that they have, like you said, you know that they have to have information on this. There's got to be documentation. There's got to be more than what's out there. And I can't remember who it was that was talking about it, but they were a member of the government and stuff. And they said, when you put out a Freedom of Information Act for aliens or UFOs or something, don't put UFO, don't put UAP. There was other keywords that you were supposed to put in there instead. And then you would get all these reports that aren't, you know, the government doesn't file it under UFO report. They file it under whatever they call it. And I've always said, you know, we got to figure out what the government calls Bigfoot, what their word, what their title is, because I'm sure if you found that out and put in a thing for that, maybe you would get nothing still, but you might hit on that, you know, sweet spot where all of a sudden 500 reports drop because now you've looked for the correct keyword instead of, you know, well, you guys are all calling it Bigfoot, but we know better. It's really, you know, experiment 626 or, you know, whatever have you. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you get that.
That is what the lawyer said. That's why he wanted to resubmit, is because he actually did work for FWC. He was a lawyer for them. And he said he's got buddies down there, and he said he wants to resubmit. He said he doesn't think they're going to lie to him. But if they are going to lie to him, then we'll sue him. You know what I mean? But I mean, the hope is that they don't lie to him and that we get all the reports, because we just want to publish the data. Like, it's all going to be on our website. Once we get the money for these emails, all 70-something thousand of them are going to be on our website for everybody to look in, because I got news for you. I ain't sitting there and looking through 70,000 emails.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
You know,
you guys wanted it. You paid for it. Here you go.
Yeah, man.
Through it. Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of hoping, you know, if nothing else, just to kind of get the community behind it, and raise some money, you know, and get these emails, see what they have. Maybe they're nothing. I highly doubt they're nothing, you know, but maybe they are. Whatever though, we're never going to know if we don't try. And to keep going out there and trying to get footage or trying to get hair or trying to get any of this stuff that's never going to matter. It's not, you know, like, let's try it a different way for a change. You know, the hell, if everybody just donated the price they pay for a pack of batteries every time they go out to the woods, we get
That's a lot of money.
Oh, that is, but you know, like $10, so $10, $11. If we could just get a pack of batteries donated to us from everybody, and we'd be good.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. We have in the show notes the website, thejourneytobelief.com. Here it is again on the screen with this. Is that where you can get to? I'll put the link after the fact here. I'll put the link to the GoFundMe, but for my information, where is the link to the GoFundMe? Where can we find that?
It is on thejourneytobelief.com. Awesome. Yeah, it'll say donate, and then you go over there and you click that, and you know, you can give what you can, man. Anything helps. And we're seriously just, like I said, we're just trying to get these, and once we get them, we're going to publish them on the website, because it'd be really cool if there was like 3 in there that were kind of damning.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because all we're looking for in this is something to put pressure on them with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if we can
Mm-hmm.
put pressure on these people, they'll at least have some phony hearing like they're doing now with the UFO stuff. But hey, maybe they got videos, bro.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure.
You know, maybe they got stuff.
Well, look at, you hear, you know, and this is all hearsay, and, you know, you take it for what it's worth, but you hear all these stories about people seeing something or having a more violent encounter with rocks thrown at them or something. And the word gets out about the encounter, and then somebody goes there, and then there's all these military or something in the area. Now, whether or not that's a true story or not, you know, you got to think that even if one of those stories is true, these guys are paying attention. They're listening. You know, they're paying attention to the reports and following up on these, you know, dangerous encounters, if you will.
Yeah, you know, because they have to,
Mm-hmm,
right? Otherwise, you'd have small towns getting attacked. You know what I mean? People that are just killed, because I think these things are very capable of doing that if they want to, you know, especially if they're a biological creature.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just like a primate, I mean, you're probably going to have an issue just like you would with grizzly bears or if chimpanzees were in the damn city park.
Right.
You know, so we can't act like that. We think it's a primate, but we think it's friendly. Okay, it's the only primate that's friendly.
Yeah.
You're not going to walk up in a silverback gorilla's area.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say they're trying to protect us. You know, that makes sense for them to send people out, take care of the things.
And that's, you know, again, we talked about this before too, is that, you know, we're not saying that Bigfoot is, you know, aggressive and dangerous and stuff, but it's a wild animal. Even if it's a wild human, you know, anything that's out there, if you, you know, shoot at it, if you try and take its food, you try and get near its young, it's going to be aggressive.
Right.
You know, and that's not to say, again, everyone is aggressive. Everyone's dangerous. You can come across docile ones just eating or picking berries or whatever, and they're fine. Any animal is, if you leave it alone. But again, you have these encounters that people report and stuff.
Yeah, and with the number of people going missing, you know, it's like once a bear gets a taste of humans, you know, it's a repeat kind of thing. Like, what if you come across a Bigfoot that's really hungry and you're a small person? You know what I'm saying? Like you said, it's a wild animal. There's no telling. So it would make sense if the government knew about these things, they would follow up on reports. It would also make sense that the government's got a disinformation agent, kind of like they did with Rick Doty. You know, there was a bunch of those people that were going around and lying to people about UFOs and stuff. But to say that these men in black suits will show up to UFO reports, but not show up to a Bigfoot encounter, I think it's, you know, kind of foolish.
Yeah, that is interesting. Have you ever taken a report like that or heard of one?
Yeah. So after me and my dad released our footage, there was a guy that we went to church with when I was a kid. I seen him at the gas station. He told me to have me and my dad come by the house. And we went by the house, and he told us this story. He's a retired forest ranger, and he ran over one earlier in his career. Ran over it, killed it. There was a forest fire out here in Bradwell Bay, and he was coming around the curb and ran over the damn thing. The way he describes it's a little different than what your normal Bigfoot, like a lot of people have reposted this story and somebody have put like Dog Man on it, you know, but the guy said it was like human, but it just had a kind of a protruding snout. But anyways, he said there were men show up within a couple hours that were there that, you know, he went out to the spot with, and they're like, listen, you didn't hit what you think you hit. You hit a bear. and you're going to continue to tell that story, or we're going to make your life a living hell. You know, you lose your pension, put you in jail, blah, blah, blah. So it was weird. Excuse me. It was weird coming from him because 100% believe the guy, you know, and he's asked that I don't release his name until after, you know, he's passed.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a no nonsense guy, man. He's definitely not lying about it. He had this when I was in church with him. That's when all that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
The Bradwell Bay fires in like 97. That's when all that was going on, man. And, or maybe it was before 97. Maybe it was like 94. Anyways, whatever. The big fires that were here in Apalachicola National Forest in the early 90s. When I knew him, that was all what was going on. And he's been holding that secret since then, you know, and it's because of fear. It's because of people being threatened by government officials. It wasn't the last time I heard that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's, you know, people ask, well, if these things are really happening, if people are getting, you know, if they're out there, people have to be hitting them with cars, you know, like you said, and so why aren't people talking about it? And I think that right there is exactly why, because anybody that does, you know, you call up your insurance agency and tell them you hit a Bigfoot, you know, and you want to, you know, fix your car. They're not going to take you seriously, but that report's going to go to somebody that is. And
right.
That's the problem right there. And then they're going to tell you, no, you hit a bear. And that's the end of it. So,
and see, that's what we're kind of hoping that we come across is somebody who can get behind this idea, who maybe is better off and can help us with some things, because we'd like to follow up with the DMV. Every single vehicle report accident is kept on record. Every single one. And the state of Florida has every single one from like the 70s on, you know what I mean? And there somewhere, I'm sure somebody's hit one. You know what I mean? And
there's probably pictures in those files too.
There's probably pictures in those files. If nothing else, there's eyewitness reports, eyewitness testimony, and those words would trigger in a search, you know, and therefore we could have possible, you know, Bigfoot reports from just the car crashes. But we want to hit up every county in Florida, the police departments, and just ask them, you know, too. Like Wakulla County, Florida, where I live, they're pretty open about it. They've had a couple that have been called in, and they've told me all about it. Nothing to hide there, you know, which brings up the question: why is FWC hiding stuff?
So let me ask you this: what is FWC?
Florida Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
So they have the most jurisdiction in the state out of any agency, right? They can pull you over at any time. You don't have to be fishing. You don't have to be in the woods. You can be in the middle of town, and they can pull you over and search your whole truck, you know? So, and they usually do. I used to be a commercial fisherman, so we had to work with them every time we get off the boat. There they were waiting on us. You know, we had to call them. Tell them we're going to be there around 4 o'clock in the morning. And we get there, and then they go through all of our stuff. You know, like making sure we ain't got cocaine in the fish. Brother, if I had cocaine in the fish, I wouldn't be on this damn boat right now, bro. You know, like be living a whole lot better, not worried about going to Dollar General. But I digress.
So these, what'd you say? There's 7,000 emails, or is that right?
70,000.
Okay. 70,000 emails. Is that from one county, or is that the whole state of Florida, or
that's the whole state?
From?
And you got to figure they haven't been doing email that long.
True. Yeah.
So you got 73,000 emails within the departments in only a short span of time. Because like, what's the furthest that's going to go back to the 90s?
Mid 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody really had it for them. So since the mid 90s till today, granted 20 something years, depending on what year it is, that's not that long of a time to have that many emails. Like, what are you talking about? Does that not make y'all curious?
They're all just really big fans of Finding Bigfoot, and that's all they're talking about back and forth.
What? Watch it be something dumb like that, dude.
Did
y'all see the new Jack Link
Those
Sasquatch
idiots,
commercial?
yeah.
That's all it is. It's for 73,000 of them.
Some
But,
idiot in a pickup truck asked me about Bigfoot again today. Oh, really? Yeah.
yeah. But they got to have something, man, because it can't all be that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll see. But the $12,000 is because they got to redact a bunch of documents, you know, which is kind of foolish as well. Like, I don't understand why you got to redact anything. You don't redact anything out of anything else. Y'all sell our information if we give it to you. It's what you're worried about. So the lawyer thinks that the price is excessive, and he thinks that is just because, or to deter us. You know, like, who's going to have $12,000 laying around? You know, I don't, but I'm hoping, you know, 1,000 people will have $12 laying around or something like that, you know, and then we can get them. It's a lot easier if you go out at that route.
Yeah, that's not a lot of money. Like you said, $12,000, but $12 a person. That's pretty reasonable to get that kind of an information and somebody willing to put in the legwork for everybody and go out there and get it. I think that's,
you know,
that's
and if we can't, I think when we get halfway there, we're going to get a batch. We're going to like buy about half of them and start putting them out. And then maybe that'll open some eyes for the other ones. You would kind of get a feel on what we're going through. And people be like, oh, let's get some more emails. We went through all these and we found this. Right. You know, so it's not like we're trying to make money off of it. We're not trying to release a book or nothing. You know, it's all going to be open source. I want you to believe. I want you to be able to show somebody who called you a liar at Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, Bigfoot's blah, blah, blah. Well, hey, how about this? If Bigfoot's fake, why are they talking about this? You know what I mean? And then you have some actual hard evidence. Like we don't have to prove it. We just have to get them to admit that it's there. You know?
Well, let me ask you this, devil's advocate here. So what if, you know, you talk about the proof and the body of evidence and stuff. What makes you think that somebody's report is worth any more as a credible piece of evidence? You know, because anybody can call in and file a report and say, hey, I saw one, you know? So why do you think that will make a difference?
So Tyler Howell, when we interviewed him, he talked about an FWC officer who was the report that he got attacked by this thing. So maybe there's some of that, and that in most people's eyes, at least in Joey's eyes, will be more credible than the school bus driver. Right. And then it's also important to see what the follow-up was. You know what I mean? What did the officer taking the report think? You know what I mean? So there is something to be found in there, you know, especially if it's somebody who's in the agency, right? Because then you've got maybe they stop talking about it all of a sudden for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they're told, maybe they're told, maybe that officer who had the report, who had the encounter, maybe he's told a certain thing. Maybe we don't talk about that. And then I think the main thing really is if we can get enough buzz around this, right? Maybe we got some of them FWC officers start coming forward under the Whistleblowers Act and be like, yo, we're not allowed to report this stuff, but it gets called in all the time. Yo, these guys carried a body off of Mount St. Helens. I was the guy that flew the plane. I was the guy that loaded them up. You know, maybe, dude, all you got to get is one domino to fall, and then it just starts going. And so we're kind of hoping for that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Does how much do you know about the Whistleblower Act? Does that cover? I know it covers like UAP and stuff like that. Do you think that would cover all the Bigfoot stuff as well?
How do we know it's not the same thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? You could always talk about it as these are some type of alien creatures, because they are, right? They're unknown. They're paranormal. It's not normal, so it is paranormal. Whether you want to think they're an ape or they're coming through portals, why couldn't it be? There's enough reports with lights showing up. There's enough witnesses where you could pass this into another part of that. But I don't know off the top of my head. That's something I should look into, is to see, if that only covers UAP, but that covers other stuff too, like the Whistleblower Act. Like I think they passed that after Edward Snowden had his deal, where they came after him and he was releasing all that NSA stuff, and then now it's been used for the UAP stuff. But I know there's other people who they're just exposing members of the government that are covered under that, and it has nothing to do with UFOs.
Interesting. Have you by chance thought of reaching out to some of the like To the Stars Academy and some of the actual I can't think of the other one, Hollywood Disclosure Act and stuff like that are working with the government right now for the UFOs? Have you thought of reaching out to them to see if they have any information regarding Bigfoot as well, back and forth?
We have, you got to have money to get a hold of people.
Absolutely.
You got to have somebody that knows them, that can get in touch with them, like an agent or something like that. And that's something we do plan on looking into, because it would be, I would really love to sit down with somebody like Stephen Greer. Okay. Because me personally, I don't think they're what we think they are. I think they're closer to what these extraterrestrials are than anything else, right? And let's just say that's the case. Maybe they're not talking about the Bigfoot thing, but the Bigfoot is a part of it, and they know something about it. You know what I'm saying? Because they're privy to a lot of information, but mainly the sexy thing is the UFOs, and that's what they're working towards. But maybe they know about the Bigfoot part of it as well. And if they don't, well then, hey, maybe Bigfoot's not a part of it. It's just a cryptid creature or a Neanderthal or something like that. But with all the lights that are being seen, I find it hard to believe they wouldn't be involved in that UFO kind of deal.
That's I'm trying to think of the guy's name. The main whistleblower that just came out for the government.
Fravor? No, he wasn't a whistleblower, was he?
He was part of the three persons on that thing. I can't think of his name now. It'll come. But he was the guy that briefed the president, and he came out to talk about the UFOs and all the stuff that he was privy to. I wonder, if we're talking about the UFOs are a big deal in Congress now because it's national security, right? If these things are flying overhead and it's dangerous to the nuclear reactors and all that stuff. So if these things are attacking people in national parks, wouldn't that be national security as well? And then,
of course,
wouldn't he? Not right. There's Ryan Graves, there's Fravor, and then there's the third guy, and his name is the one that escapes me right now.
Elizondo?
No, he just wrote the book, but he would be another one as well. That would be privy to national security and stuff like that as well.
The problem with these people, man, is just like, what, do you trust them?
No, yeah, that's just it.
Like that you do work for the government, or you did, you know what I mean? And so that kind of grays the water. And, none of the whole disinformation stuff really set with me or registered with me early on. But then I was speaking at a conference in Michigan with Robert Kreider, and he talked a pretty good piece about a certain well-known individual in the Bigfoot community being just that, being a more of a disinformation act to throw us off the actual truth of it. And he'll tell you about it. I'm not going to drop the person's name, but if you ever have him on and you want to hear something interesting, listen, just hear him out. Because when he tells you the person's name, you're going to be like, get the hell out of here. Most everybody's going to turn it off. Hopefully not, because you should at least hear it out. Because I was like, okay. You know what I mean? It was like, it just made my guard go up.
He has a lot of information that, like yourself, you were talking about getting blocked on Meta and stuff like that. Kreider has had a lot of issues with things getting taken down and blocked on YouTube, and a lot of his information. I've had him on my show a while ago, but I've been trying to get him back again, but he's been busy in that. So, but I definitely know what
when you get him on.
Yeah.
When you get him on, ask him about it. He'll tell you all about it. It's going to be a super unpopular opinion, but he went on at this conference and talked about it. You know what I mean? And you got a good point, brother. That's all I said is like, oh, man, wow. I hope that's not the case. Because if that's the case, then we need to stop looking for this Patty-type creature who's flesh and blood, you know, and go more into what the early Americans said these creatures were. They're the ones that lived in the damn woods anyways. Like, why are we so pompous that we think we know better? No matter how crazy what they're saying sounds. So,
yeah, that's like you were saying, you know, with all the military and stuff, you know, okay, so this guy comes forward and he says, well, this is what I know about UFOs, whatever, what have you. And he can be telling 100% the truth as he knows it. But that doesn't mean that the information that was fed to him was the truth. Nope. You know, you're saying this whole disinformation act or, you know, thing going on. And this guy sits there, passes a polygraph test, swears up and down that this is the truth. This is what I saw. This is what I heard. Well, that's great. Somebody took you to a hangar, showed you what they wanted you to see, and said, here, now go tell everyone about this, you know? Yeah. And where do you tell what's true and what's not anymore? You know, even real life is as fake as, you know, AI and everything else. You just don't know.
Right. But, you know, you can catch the documentation. You know what I mean? And you can catch somebody in some shit. And if you got the receipts, bro, you know, hey, y'all talked about this personally. And the reason, you know, we decided to do Florida versus like Washington on this, not only A, because we're closer, but B, the laws here are really like public records request public information of how they're doing their job and everything they're keeping. That's a pretty big deal here. Like, our governor doesn't play about that. If the people want to know something, he's pretty transparent on everything, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? And so it's an easier battle here for us, especially if we can catch them lying, and which we already have done. But like you said, you know, and the lawyer told us, it may be a certain way that we're wording things. And they set that up as a booby trap, you know, almost so where you think you don't have nothing and there's nothing there. But, you know, if you just type experiment 372, you know, then the real stuff comes up. So,
yep. Whatever they've classified it as.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I definitely look forward to hearing more about this, and I hope that you get to your goal. I'm going to go check that out myself. And after I do this, as this is pre-recorded again for anybody listening and watching out there, I will put the GoFundMe link directly in the show notes, as well as the website, and you can go check out the documentary, as well as hopefully help you guys out with the GoFundMe. And I hope that you get your goal, or at least halfway, so you can get part of it, like you said, and start pulling some stuff through. And I hope that, you know, I'll definitely keep in touch here and have you back for an update and see how things are going. I think that'd be really cool.
Cool, bud. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, you know, if you got something to spare, throw it down. If you don't, no big deal. We'll get it somewhere else. You know what I mean? The documentary, though, it kind of lays it out, you know, for you. And by the time this airs, the documentary should be on Amazon. If it's not, we're just going to be kind of in that period where we're waiting on them to go live with it. So you should be able to check it out there. If you can't, you can check it out on our website, thejourneytobelief.com.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Personally, man, thank you again for coming on, and thank you for what you're doing with trying to get all this information out and all this, the legwork and stuff that you're putting in. I appreciate that on behalf of the community and all the people that do take it seriously. So thank you so much for what you're working on.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on and let me spread my message, brother. It really means a lot.
Absolutely, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on this week. And again, like I said, keep me informed. If you got anything else, you need help with your GoFundMe again, we'll have you back on, and we'll keep this ball rolling, and hopefully we'll get some answers.
Thanks, brother.
All right, man. You take care.
You too, bud.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Go check out Bigfoot, The Journey to Belief. Head on over to thejourneytobelief.com. Click on the GoFundMe link. Give them a hand. At least watch the documentary. Support them that way. And we can all make a difference and hopefully get some answers and get this ball rolling on a bigger scale, guys. So check that out. And until next time, guys, I will see you on the edge.